By the hoary hosts of Hoggoth, I bid you a fine welcome, good people of the audience, to my very own Sanctum Sanctorum. Welcome to this video. This video, if you can't already tell by this costume, is all about Marvel's Doctor Strange. Now, let me begin by telling you that this is not a movie review. This isn't something where I'm going to be analyzing acting talent or cinematography or anything like that. At this point, there's plenty of reviews of Doctor Strange out there if that's what you're looking for. This movie has been out long enough that just about most folks who want to see it have already seen it. You have already marveled at the mind-bending visuals, the glorious superhero action, and the riveting storyline. Now, if you haven't, I'd say go out there, buy the movie, rent it, download it, stream it, whatever you do. And then, go watch this video. My goal with this series is twofold, both to entertain you with my genius wit and to enlighten you and educate you with the various little tidbits of wisdom and insight I find in these things. There can be wisdom found in all sorts of things, I feel. From, yes, holy scriptures, to things like comic books and even video games. It's all over the place. I feel that's where we can find those moments of enlightenment in our lives. Through the everyday stuff, the fiction and the entertainment we are drawn to. Not just while meditating in a cave, or sitting on a mountaintop, or praying in a church. But yeah, while watching something like Doctor Strange, or while playing a game on our computers. It's our lives, and we get what we need from them. So hey, in this series, I'm going to be pointing out the various little tidbits of wisdom and coolness that people might have missed in these movies. You could say, my quest here is to illuminate you on the spiritual truths found within this film. Oh, mind you, I'm not saying the events in this movie are literally and historically true, like there's an actual Doctor Strange out there that you can go and visit. I am saying, though, that if you watch the movie carefully, there are little hints at real spiritual teachings found within. There are mentions of real occult techniques and legitimate ideas from our own world. In truth, I've found many such revelations in the typically nerdier works of our culture. From video games and comic books to science fiction fantasy films, I feel that this is what draws us to them on some level, is the real stuff we could see within. And so, my friends, I present to you mystical insights into the depths of the psyche presented in a seemingly unlikely form. Let us begin. Growing up as a kid in the 80s and 90s, Marvel Comics were my favorite. There were the street-level heroes like Daredevil, team comics like the X-Men or the Avengers, and then there were titles like Doctor Strange, heroes that showcased a different side of the multifaceted Marvel universe. A magical, mystical side that isn't afraid to delve into some bizarre and out-there territories. But maybe it's not as bizarre as you'd think. Maybe both the film and the comics it's based on contain some true things, both literal and spiritual truths. Though telling a fictional tale of a made-up person, Doctor Strange may just be more grounded in reality than most people would ever suspect. For example, one element that features prominently in Doctor Strange is the concept of astral projection. The idea here is that our physical body isn't our only body. Beyond it, we have less and less dense bodies. the emotional body, the above-named astral body, the mental, causal, and other bodies beyond that too. Though the film takes it straight from the comic books, this is a concept the original comic creators took from real-life mysticism. The practice of astral projection, in the classical sense, involves a practitioner projecting their awareness away from their physical body and into the astral body, which is not restrained by such physical rules like weight, gravity, or distance. From before the dawning of recorded history, people have been utilizing techniques to do this, from ancient shamans performing rituals in caves, to modern-day practitioners who use sound frequencies to assist in their journeys. To this day, real-life people practice astral projection, though often under different names without all the old-school terminology and complex rituals. In modern times, groups like the Monroe Institute research the best methods of inducing what they call out-of-body experiences, and assist others in doing the same. When stripped of all the arcane language, astral projection describes a very real and achievable process that is basically this: pulling focus away from your five senses and your outer world and putting that focus elsewhere. In the process, you enter an incredibly vivid state, comparable but often surpassing that of a lucid dream, with full awareness. From then, you can access all sorts of amazing realms, from those resembling your physical surroundings, to unearthly and bizarre dimensions resembling those seen in the Doctor Strange film. Now, whether there truly is an astral body is up for debate. Is any of this real in the physical, scientifically measurable way? Or is it all in your head? That is also up for debate, and that may just lead you to a whole lot of convoluted arguments about what exactly the nature of reality is, what your senses are, and whether all of reality is actually in your mind. And yes, I could probably spend a good amount of time talking about that. But nah, that's not the subject for today's video. Still, whatever the nature of an out-of-body experience is, they happen more often than most folks think, and they can be induced in a variety of ways. Meditation, hypnosis, dream techniques, certain drugs, and even audio frequencies have been used by people to induce a similar state of consciousness. From what I've personally experienced of it, what Doctor Strange encounters in the film isn't all that far off from the real thing, though individual experiences may vary greatly. And of course, we have the basic premise of a man undergoing a spiritual awakening, studying with a hidden school of masters located in the Himalayan mountains of Asia. This isn't something unique to Doctor Strange. The recent Iron Fist show features a similar event, as does the Christopher Nolan-directed Batman Begins, and even the Arrow TV series. In fact, I'd say that the whole idea of a Westerner journeying to the mysterious East and learning powerful secrets has become a bit of a cliché, and certain people even might see it as mildly racist. Yet, the idea certainly doesn't originate in movies or comic books, and in fact may have a legitimate basis to it. During the late 1800s, the West became inundated with previously unavailable Eastern teachings, and tales of such mysterious masters with strange abilities began to surface. Helena Blavatsky, whose spiritual teachings would go on to influence much of what people call New Age today, was said to have received much of her wisdom from a secretive group of masters who deemed humanity ready to receive knowledge previously kept hidden. Masters such as Moria, Hilarion, or Kuthumi appeared to her not as angels or spirits or in visions, but as men, yet with remarkable wisdom and amazing abilities. Infamous occultist Aleister Crowley, as well, may have been in contact with such beings, and claimed that many of his magical doctrines were originated by what he called the secret chiefs, who possessed occult knowledge surpassing even his own. One may, of course, dismiss the above accounts, and others like them, as the ramblings of spiritualists and drug fiends, or else con artists wishing to fleece an ignorant Western audience. Of course, Asia as well is replete with such tales, originating from the Himalayan mountains to the ashrams of India. For hundreds of years at least, there have been reports of supernormal events occurring in some of these isolated monasteries. In Tibet, for example, monks have documented thousands of incidents of advanced meditators dissolving their physical bodies, taking on what is called the rainbow body of light, a type of existence beyond what we know of as physical. Paramahansa Yogananda, in his book Autobiography of a Yogi, described encounters with such masters living in the mountains, from those who have learned to go without sleep or food, to the immortal known as Babaji, whose mastery allows him to manifest palaces out of thin air and transcend death itself. Such tales and reports have existed for many years. Stories of a hidden group of spiritual masters with magical abilities, sequestered away in the mountains of Asia, but extending their influence out over the entire world as they subtly oversee the course of civilization. This might seem whimsical or fantastical to those viewers more grounded in day-to-day life. Many of these reports, I do admit, may be utterly fabricated. Yet, the idea has been there since ancient times, and while I would not recommend taking anyone's word for it, like anything of this nature, or any nature, it is worth investigating and contemplating. As well, in this film, we're presented with bits of teasers on things like chakras, energy healing, chi, and even mention of a few real occult tomes among the fictional ones. But you could say all that is just window dressing, just props to showcase the excellent plot and to tell a story. And you know what? You'd be right. But what about that story? What's in that story? Anything interesting? Well, let's see. Doctor Strange is, at its core, the tale of a man struggling with his own ego, his identity, his sense of self. At the start of the film, the Doctor is shown to be a brilliant man, a gifted surgeon with a fine intellect, a master of his work. Yet in the social department he's lacking, shown to be arrogant, rude, and not very adept at relationships. In many ways, if things went differently for him, Doctor Strange would have the makings of a fine villain. Yet in the prime of his career, his hands are crippled by a devastating accident. He is deprived of his most prized asset, his means of making a living. In turn, this deprives Strange of his purpose, his confidence, in many ways his very identity. If he isn't a doctor, isn't a surgeon, then what is he? It's something that many of us might find ourselves asking ourselves in our lives. When we strip away all that external stuff, our jobs, our money, our families, our names, everything we ever identified with and thought we were. When that's gone, what are we left with? Who are we? After his accident, Doctor Strange experiences what spiritual people and meditators would like to call the dark night of the soul, where everything seems to go wrong, where he finds himself questioning who he is and what he's become. This is the place where everything you thought you were leaves you, where everything that defined you goes away, and you're left with only yourself. And sometimes looking at yourself like that can be a painful experience. I've had such times myself throughout my life, and I know they can hurt. They can be heartbreaking, they can be devastating. But I've also found that it's during those times that I get to know who I am more, that I get to do some self-reflection, some soul-searching. And oftentimes I've come out, well, a better person, or at least a stronger person. When we hit rock bottom, when we seem to lose it all, that's when we can transform. We we can realize that all that stuff we've been holding on to, that we thought defined us, that we thought made us who we are, all that stuff was the junk holding us back from rising to the heights we needed to go to. And so, while it can be a painful experience, it can also be a liberating experience. In many ways, what we see in Doctor Strange could parallel our own lives, our own day-to-day experiences. Because in order to really make that quantum jump into anything new, whether it's a new job or just a new way of thinking about our lives, well, we often have to let go of that old stuff that's been holding us back. Now, doesn't mean we have to lose ourselves completely, but we've got to redefine what it means to be us. Doctor Strange in the movie still continues to call himself a doctor, as opposed to a master or any other title. But he's a different kind of doctor. And oftentimes, to really change, to really grow, we gotta step outside that comfort zone. Oftentimes, we might need a big crisis, like the doctors, to push us forward, to kick ourselves in the ass and get us going. Now, some people might not need that. Maybe they can slowly work their way towards their goals because they're disciplined and they got their stuff together. But hey, other times people are stuck in a rut. They're stuck in their own burdensome ways of thinking. Their own bullshit, you could say. And at those times, well, they might need that kind of crisis. A kind of crisis that strips us bare, that removes everything but that essential core of who we are, so we can finally move forward, unencumbered by all those false ideas of who we think we are. He tries to look for cures in traditional and experimental therapies, but all of his medicine seems to fail him. Yet ultimately, the doctor ends up discovering hope in the decidedly alternative therapy promised by the masters of Carmertage. Just the kind of thing a standard medical doctor would avoid in most circumstances. And although what he seeks is healing for his hands, what he finds is something else altogether, a higher calling, a life that he never imagined he could have. Doctor Strange finds that to really come to that point of healing, he has to shift how he sees himself, redefine who he is. He has to let go of his pre-imagined ideas of who and what he is, on what is possible or impossible. He has to release himself from the image he had of himself, that of a skilled surgeon. But at the end of it all, he is still the same man, still Doctor Strange, but a greater, more impressive version of that. So, ultimately, Doctor Strange is both a wildly entertaining film and a profound glimpse into a spiritual reality. While the magic it presents us with is most certainly fictional and fantastical, it does provide us hints into a greater reality hidden just beyond sight. Real magic that I feel underlies many of our fascinations with such tales. And in the end, it gives us this truth, that to reach that magic which lies within, you often have to let go of your egoic attachments to what you think is real, to who you think you are, and to what motivates you, and step into a new and powerful you. So until next time, my friends, farewell.